What's up, Union Arena players? This is Kyle D, better known as Universities, and today we are going to be covering none other than a market watch for the fabulous game of Union Arena. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So guys, if you want to help support the channel with no extra cost, please use the affiliate link down below. It costs you nothing to support the channel, and it's just a great way of doing it while you're checking out cards that you are always ready going to be paying for. So without further ado, let's get into it. So if you weren't following, on Friday there was a Mayhem sale, and there was a lot of cards being snatched up and kind of affected the market just a tiny bit. A lot of players will buy things and just try to get that bonus credit back, and when you do, you kind of get some decent value. I mean, you know, $50 order gets you $5 back. You know, that 10% does add up, and again, future orders are worth it in my opinion. So yeah, so Ichigo Kurosaki from the Anime Expo 2024, I would expect this once we get volume 2 to come up. I think people will start snagging these up a little bit just so that they can play a max rarity if they like the art, right? It's all those art choices that you want to go with. You know, Bankai Super Pre-Release, I think this is classified the max rarity card just because Super Pre-Release was a little more challenging in the starter decks. So at the end of the day, I expect this to climb up if Purple Bleach starts kind of doing a lot of crazy shenanigans for its volume 2. Now, you do have Asta. These always are funny to look at. I do like looking at the cards they kind of give, the gimmies that they kind of give. And they're always like dirt cheap, like 13 cents, 14 cents. A lot of players have a bunch of them just because, you know, they get them every time they play an event. Now you got Leafa, Earth Goddess, you know, the winter event. It's at $3.45. These things do come in crazy hot on release, so it's kind of just good to remove them as soon as possible. You always do this on release just to get maximum value. If you don't, I want to tell you straight up, you're gonna be fighting tooth and nail to actually get, you know, some decent money out of it. I always say this is that when you have the release winners, just move them. Don't waste your time holding on to them unless you're really gonna be playing the deck, because again, you'll get some decent value for it because then they tank. They always tank. You know, this thing's sitting at, like, if you moved them at 15s, you made great money for them coming down to 3s. FOMO definitely affects the game. Nubaras, look at this thing, down to under $1. I won't expect this to stay low for long. I expect it probably to get back up to $2 eventually once we get, you know, June, at the end of June, when we get the new JJK stuff. Now you have Gon from Gen Con as well. They're seeing a little bit of climb up, so that's why I kind of brought it into the light, because sometimes, you know, a small bump up is a small bump up. So yeah, I think only a couple copies have been being bought occasionally, but there is going to be a volume 2 and some players will valid having gone. Ichigo release event winner, so $7.70 climbing up, guys. They're starting to move, which is commonplace because the deck is getting another wave of support, which means there's some great value to have with it. Now, you do have Asta Judge Pack. They're down to $4. I expected to dip down a little bit more. I don't know if purple will be the deck for Black Clover, but I definitely think red is going to be. And it looks like they only took out one of the red Astas. Yami Judge Pack is looking like $1 going down. You do have a few at the $3 mark as well. I think this should be thought of probably picking up if you really like Captain Yami. Nubara Gold, the Bounce Girl, she's at $8.10, holding strong for this low end. Actually more like 14s. I hate the $5 shipping. Guys, stop that. Bad. Now, Marvel, the shrine for blue JJK for the Sukunas are at to $13. Be ready if you guys are trying to max rarity the deck to make sure you get at least 2 copies of this card. You don't need 3, but 2 of it if you're going to be max rarity, because it does have the release stamp. Now you do have the Genos releases sitting strong at $2.75 for green Genos. It's not bad, but can be a little bit better in the long term. For prices wise, at least it's going down. A can go back up if, you know, green Saitama kind of starts doing some crazy things. Once we start getting regional events, I expect a lot of these cards to climb up. But again, when it comes down to stuff like this, it's a challenge. Kirito from Sword Art Online, just for the base, is seeing some movement because people are starting to get their hands going with the Gun Gale deck. And the green deck's pretty solid, to be honest with you, out the gate. You know, $6.50 to $9 is nothing to scoff at. Now you got the Shinon, you know, Shinon basically at $15. So if you guys hit this in your entry packs and stuff like that, you definitely made your money's worth. She's a very powerful card. The only problem is she just doesn't have impact. She has no way of actually applying some damage with that snipe. I mean, yeah, you get some decent boost and leads into other crazy shenanigans, but at the end of the day, the snipe is just there. You know, what made Kurapika scary was because it got snipe and impact, and which led to being some damage. She just snipes right now, but the next wave of support's gonna help her out. Asana's, the Goddess's deck is pretty decently solid. I've seen a lot of tops over the past like couple weeks that it has pulled ahead as a contender. So just keep an eye out on this. It is a $5 card. I expect it to climb up more and more. Asuna, just regular Sword Art Online blue. She's finally cooling off though, which is good for a lot of players that have been waiting for this to dip down a little bit after the hype. Again, people will pull for the best deck in the set, and those will usually lead into something expensive. The only thing I don't know what's going to affect is the Volume 2. We're going to have to see where Volume 2 Bleach goes. Because it's such a smaller set than the main set, it is a support set. There's not going to be as many high contenders. The only ones I'm going to say is probably going to have the waifu tax in that one is going to be the Rukia, the ice form. If you pull that, GG's. Now, Shinon is at $2.22 for the Goddess version. It's not terrible. Could be a lot cheaper, but, you know, after release, it's kind of has picked up some pace just because the Goddess deck is actually doing something. Now you have Yugo, 32 Synthesis is basically $2, seeing some bump up. The deck is starting to move and players are starting to adapt with it and starting to learn. And that's what happens when decks are actually pretty decent. They're adapting and learning and improving on lists, and at least actually being a surprise that your opponent's not ready for. Kirito, the blue one, down to under 8s, so expect this to come down a bit. Asana's for green for the Mother Rosario deck, 75 cents, going down. Just regular Yuki, 2 action points at 79 cents. Second wave is going to fix this deck really well. Yui is at 70 cents, and it is played at 2 to 3, so it's something to think about. Now, Alice Synthesis 30 has been going down as well. I think Yugo seeing a little more play than her, but the Synthesis deck has some potential, and especially if you splash in the Asuna Goddess, I think it has some great legs. Lifa is holding strong at 42 cents. Yeah, not a lot of players have been able to make this deck completely go. Ichigo Kurosaki rare 1 stars are at $15 and starting to climb. People are starting to stack these up, and I wouldn't be surprised if this thing gets back up to $30 a pop. It is something you guys should be prepared for. If you want to max rarity flex on your opponent, be ready for it. Now, Rukia Kuchiki here is at $5.97 and climbing up. The hype for Volume 2 is starting to pick up, guys, so don't be left in behind. Make sure you grab your copies sooner than later, because once this train goes and leaves the station, there is no coming back. These things are going to climb. Ichigo Kurosaki, just even the regular, not too much. We're up to $6.25 and climbing, so be ready for this thing to climb up as long as Purple Bleach does something in the meta. Yuji Itadori's for the, you know, top 4 finishers are at $13.99, 14s going down. I expect this to dip down more. Now you got Saitama top 4 finishers at $13. Yeah, it's just one of those challenging cards, right? To actually get some decent value. Sukuna, super rare 1-star. We're starting to see people list under. We're up to 255. People are gonna start trying to actually start moving this for future product. I don't know how long this will actually hold at the 255. If we see a hit and make them come down to 2, I don't expect this to hold long-term value. Yuji Itadori winners are down to $30, $40. This won't last long. I'm gonna be straight honest with you. Once volume 2 is starting to come, this is gonna spike. Now Ichigo Kurosaki winners are at $50 a pop right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if these reach back up to 60s very comfortably. Yeah, that's just something you got to worry about, guys. Homemade pie. What happened here? This thing is on buyout right now. 77 cents is all that's left. Did not many people open Sword Art Online? You know, that's crazy. Bombietta, super rare 1-star. Be ready for this deck to do some little bit of shenanigans as well. The volume 2 Bombietta with zombie definitely comes into play a little bit. Just being able to spam, you know, choose one of your opponents, one of resting characters on your opponent's front line, sideline it. It's actually going to be a valid strategy. So if you're ready for Bombietta, be ready for it. It'll do well on initial release, and then once we start seeing everybody else getting their volume 2s, the deck fades off a bit, but it's got to have some hype behind it. UE release event, $3.72. Yeah, just blue SAO. Yuji Itadori judge packs are at $5 and oh wow, nope, they're 13s, 18 still. Wow. Now you got Kirito Judge Pack is at $22.99. Saw some hype. No surprise, once people want to start max rating their decks, they just happen. Saitama One Punch Man is at 73 cents, going down. I don't know, I think a lot of people are sleeping on green Saitama. The deck is pretty scary when it goes off. Ichigo Kurosaki round 1, finally under like 10 bucks, but people are just trying to move their stuff just to get more support. You know, cards are going to be disappearing. Rukia Kuchiki Judge Pack is $1.90, going down. Now you have Oetsu here. This Judge Pack card, I'm going to be straight honest with you, do not expect this to stay low long. This one is played in both versions of Purple Bleach. This card is just that good. Being able to, when played, look at the top of your deck, then place it on the top or bottom of the deck. Cycling is good. You know, scrying is very important. And then when attacking, you may place squad 0 affinity card from your hand into the removal area. If you do, this character becomes a 4,000 DP until the end of turn. Being able to punch in at 4,000 early on in the game is always scary for a lot of them. Does not mean favorable trades, and that's what they hate. You know, Ratio Technique Collapse is seeing some stock back up. I think there was quite a few at 8s and like 10s earlier. Yeah, just be ready for this thing to pop in and out right now. Sukuna, this thing is $1. Don't expect this to be anything more than that. I expect it to go down. Puri Puri Prisoner Common 1-star, we're at $1.45. Domain expansions, release stamps are $15.32, going a little bit up. Just expect this to climb. Bombietta, we got plenty of stock at 50 cents. Is there going to be any big hype for it? Maybe we can bust maybe $2, but it's going to take a lot of hype behind it. Yuji Itadori's are at $9.15, basically $10 a pop. I'm expected to go down. Asuna rare, super rare 2-star, $432. Wow, and people were paying that crazy price. Wow. Kirito super rare 1-star, $43 and bumping up. You know, Gawain's are down to $17.75. Volume 2, I think this is still one of the best decks in the format for long-term wise. Eventually, we will see meta getting faster and faster and knocks this out. Now we got Shinon, the Goddess version, rare, super rare, 1-star. We're at $25. Not many listings, guys. Wow. Asuna winners holding strong at the $8 to $9 mark. Last week was like your big sale time. It's starting to come down. Asuna Goddess of Creations are at 26, bumping up a little bit. Yeah, flexing is flexing. Nezuko's are at $13 and climbing up. Multi-attack decks are still scary strong, and because our format is completely different than JP, we have a lot more variety. We have Yuki rare 1-star, $19, up to 33s. Wow. Tanjiro super rare 2 stars are $90. Now you have Yugo Synthesis 2 stars at $219. Yeah. Now Byakuya Kuchiki super rare 2 stars are at 70s. If someone can break the Byakuya Kuchiki deck and then want to flex this and tops a major event with it, boom, that's gonna explode this price. Rukia Kuchiki super rare 1-star, $22. 23s. Yeah, I expect this to come up eventually, so don't be surprised if it does. Lancelot Air Cavalry, pick up these things now. I'm gonna be straight honest with you. The fact that they are $8 a pop is stupid. Kurapika is at $11 and going down. I expect this to tank. Maki Zenin, it's at $5 right now. I expect this to jump up once we get volume 2. Lisbeth rare 1 stars, we're holding strong at the $7.25 going to 10s marks. Then you do have Sukuna Finger common 1 star, we're at 17s going down. I don't expect that long term, but all in all, guys, that is the market watch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and found this source useful. Guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.